Most people think that building wealth is all about what you add. So more money, more assets, but just as important is what you actually remove. So this week is about reducing the things that are holding us back so we can finally start to move forward. I used to focus on accumulation, earning more, investing more, acquiring more assets. And while those things are important steps, they're really only half the story. Think about it like this. If you're driving a car with the emergency brake on, doesn't matter how much you press the gas pedal, you're not gonna go very fast. And this week, we're helping you to release the brake. You might not even realize it, but a combination of subconscious beliefs about money, habitually poor decision-making, and the accumulation of bad debt can be a massive drag as you're trying to build wealth and reach escape velocity. We're gonna focus on reducing 3 major obstacles. So negative money thoughts. These are subconscious beliefs like money is the root of all evil, or I'll never get ahead, or I don't deserve wealth. I hate that one. These hidden thoughts create this invisible ceiling that really limit our financial growth. Bad debt. So this is the kind of debt that keeps you up at night. It's gonna drain your resources without adding any value to your life. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. And then 3 unnecessary expenses. We all have them. We have subscriptions that we barely use, impulse purchases that we don't need, and expenses that don't really align with our deepest values, what's important to us. So let me kick things off with one of my favorite concepts, Pareto's Law, also known as the 80-20 rule. Some of you may be familiar with it, but let's delve a little bit deeper as it relates to money because it's extremely powerful when we apply it to our financial life. So Vilfredo Pareto was an Italian economist in the late 1800s, and he made this fascinating observation. He noticed that 80% of land in Italy was owned by just 20% of the population. So intrigued by this, he looked into other areas and found that this same ratio appeared really consistently. In business, 80% of sales often come from 20% of clients. In software, 80% of the problems are caused by 20% of the bugs. It turns out that this principle is really observable at every cosmic scale. 20% of the planets in our solar system have 80% of the mass. 20% of people giving to a church provide 80% of the total donations. It's crazy. In my own experience at Mapleside Farms, this is vividly apparent and evident. We host these big fall festivals, and believe it or not, 7 weekends out of the entire year generate 80% of our annual profits. That's right, just 7 weekends. For us, that's not even 80-20, it's more like 90-10. And this isn't just some quirky statistic. It's really a fundamental principle that when understood and applied, it can revolutionize your approach to building wealth. So how does this apply to your financial life? So here are the 2 huge key insights. 80% of your future net worth is gonna come from 20% of your efforts. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna show you how that works. This means that a small fraction of what you do contributes to the majority of your outcomes. And then on the other hand, 80% of your obstacles are gonna come from just 20% of your problems. Think about it. What if you could eliminate 20% of factors that are causing 80% of your financial stress? What kind of impact would that have on your life? But I think here's where it gets even a little bit more interesting. Wealth is 80% mindset and 20% tactics. I'm gonna repeat that because I think it's that crucial. And quite frankly, so you might not believe it. 80% of your financial success is gonna be determined by your mindset, how you think about money. And only 20% is the actual work, the tactics, the actions, and the strategies that you're going to employ. But you gotta pick the right ones. So this means that the way you think about money and success and yourself, it's gonna play a far more important role than any financial plan or investment strategy. I remember early on in my entrepreneurial career, I was laser focused on tactics. I read every book, attended every seminar. I really tried every strategy to build wealth. But despite all of this effort, I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted. So I'm in my late 20s. I meet a guy with an 8-figure net worth who shared this incredible story with me. In his late 30s, he lost everything. He had grown up very poor, but found early success in business. However, he admitted that he was careless, and as he put it, he didn't respect money. And I thought respect was sort of an odd word to use, but just follow with me for a second. He said he kept thinking how he didn't really deserve all the success he was having. Then, as his business grew, he partnered with a couple of individuals, some people who didn't share his values. He said their ethics and morals were questionable. And long story short, the partnership eventually exploded. And when it did, it took his cash and his business right down with it. But here's the remarkable part. Within 3 years, he rebuilt his entire fortune and then some, because he had learned to think about money properly, and he finally learned to respect it. We talked about how money follows action. And as I went deeper with him, he started to explain how his mindset and habits contributed to his downfall, but how that loss forced him to think about money differently. And I think you've probably heard this before, these multimillionaires saying that if they lost everything, they could get it all back within a couple of years. Well, you know what? That is true. I feel exactly the same way. Once you start to understand money and shift your beliefs, then opportunities will open up. And your financial life can really take this dramatic turn for the better. It's about intentionality. So I think it's time to just quit wasting resources on things that you're just interested in. And instead, we're going to direct those resources to what you know you need to be committed to. So imagine that you're a sculptor like Michelangelo, and you're staring at a block of marble. You know, as he did, that there's a masterpiece inside, and you really just have to chip away the excess until you sort of let it come alive. So every bad debt, every negative belief, and every unnecessary expense is a chunk of stone in the way of your financial masterpiece. So this week, we're picking up the chisel, and we're gonna free our future from what's holding it back. Because for some of us, this may be the simplest but most important part of F40, getting your mind right.